Joseph, great to have you here. Those are pretty explosive comments, and there's more because this is only a little bit that 60 Minutes is throwing out, a teaser for the weekend interview. But what is clear is that this is the first time we're hearing from him that he opened an investigation into the U.S. president because, as you just heard him say now, they were concerned he was an agent of Russia.
Good morning, Robin. So certainly it describes an explosive situation at the FBI. Here you have President Trump just elected, the ultimate outsider. Initially, he indicates that he will let James Comey remain as FBI director, and then several months into his first year, he abruptly fires him, putting Andrew McCabe as acting FBI director at a time of a tremendous amount going on. And so what he's describing here is this 8-day period between the time President Trump fired James Comey and the appointment of the special counsel, where Andrew McCabe had a key role, and saying he went back to the FBI and he opened up counterintelligence and obstruction of justice investigations because he was worried about the premise of why the president had fired James Comey and whether it had to do with Russia.
So this is incredibly serious stuff and also a focus for the Mueller investigation, because what you're talking about is these chaotic 8 days between the Comey firing and then Mr. Mueller being given the go-ahead on the Russia investigation. But I've just said Mr. McCabe has a book coming out. We also know that he was fired from the FBI. Does Donald Trump have some merit in his tweet by saying that Mr. McCabe is discredited?
Well, so, I mean, let's give some context to this discrediting, allegation here.
Okay.
Now, Andrew McCabe had a long and distinguished career as an FBI agent. He rose through the ranks to become deputy director and then acting director following the termination of Director Comey. He had a great reputation. Ultimately, it was sullied by the fact that an internal FBI finding was that he had unauthorized contacts with the media, something completely unrelated to Russia. So ultimately, he does have that kind of black mark on his career, and that's how his career ended. Now, the president is sort of trumping that up, if you would, say he's disgraced, he's a liar, don't believe anything he said. So I think ultimately we're going to have to look at the words of a long and distinguished career FBI agent and supervisor and ultimately director versus the one issue that he had that ended his career, and kind of balance out where we think we should kind of, give our credit and really what we should believe.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly it becomes politicized, but this is very serious stuff. I mean, also incredibly disturbing information coming from Mr. McCabe, because there's something else. He says that senior law enforcement officials discussed how to remove the president from office using guidance from the U.S. Constitution, and that actually discussed wearing a wire in meetings with Mr. Trump. I mean, this all sounds like it's coming out of a novel, but this was taking place.
Well, there was certainly, I mean, being here in Washington during those days, there was a lot of consternation. There was a lot of chaos. The president came in, without any kind of deep-seated relationships and threw things in disarray. And you had this cloud of suspicion about whether, in fact, Russia not just interfered with the 2016 election, but interfered to help the president, possibly even in coordination with the president's campaign. So as all this is going on, yes, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of disarray, and frankly, 2 years later, we're still trying to sort it out.
But the wiretapping issue, again, that's also pretty serious. Rod Rosenstein, who apparently this conversation was had about, said, oh, no, that was just a joke. It was kind of done sarcastically. But you're hearing something different from Mr. McCabe here. He says, no, there was actually serious conversations about trying to perhaps catch the president admitting some sort of nefarious wrongdoing here.
Well, so you have to compare, again, the career of Andrew McCabe, which is distinguished, except for that kind of one ending incident. And then you have Rod Rosenstein, who's another very distinguished career Department of Justice prosecutor who has risen to the ranks of now Deputy Attorney General. He was U.S. Attorney prior to that. Very distinguished, very well thought of prosecutor in white-collar circles. So we're going to have to kind of weigh the statements of Andrew McCabe on the one hand and Rod Rosenstein on the other, as far as the wiretapping comment and perhaps also the justification for why President Trump terminated former FBI Director James Comey.
Yeah, and all of this will be dealt with by Mr. Mueller, and as you say, it's a year afterwards, 2 years. I've lost track. It all seems it's a year after the Mueller investigation, and we might be coming to some sort of end, but certainly a lot of these questions still not answered. Joseph Moreno, great to have your perspective, your legal analysis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Robin. Always a pleasure.